Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium. Buongiorno. Come ha detto lei, buongiorno.
Buongiorno indeed, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the brand new episode of the Turin Giants podcast. My name is Farhad, and I'm hopped up on green tea and caffeine, all sorts. And I'm super excited to welcome my boys here, Patrick, Damiano, and of course, Zach.
You know what's going down, represent that H-Town.
Of course, I am reporting from the frigid Chi-Town, the Windy City. It is cold here. Icy, cold, disgusting, but Juventus winning always warms my heart. Patrick from Green Bay, Damiano from the Bay Area, and as you heard in the drop, Zach from the H-Town. Houston represent, baby. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing real good after that win.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's how many of you guys actually expected us to win? Of course, we wanted it, but let's go around the room. I don't know. I was not expecting that. Maybe a draw, but Patrick.
I was all about the draw. Unfortunately, right, the rest of the league, right, it felt too good to be true, all the results that were occurring, and I just had that feeling like this was the time to take advantage, and I was so hopeful that we would, and good result. But before the game, man, I was thinking draw, unfortunately.
I mean, last episode, yeah, it's okay, Damiano. Last episode, I ended by saying it's either going to be the catalyst for us to go on a run, or it's going to be what kills our season. And so I just was hopped up on hopium that there was going to be the former, not the latter.
Well, nevertheless, it was a great game. Alessandro Belpiero here. Lots of stuff to discuss, boys and girls. First of all, let's take care of some business. TurinGiants.com if you want to help us keep the lights on this podcast. All of this stuff kind of costs money. So if you want to support, if you appreciate what we do, TurinGiants.com, at TurinGiants on Instagram. We will also take questions, 3 awesome questions that we discussed before the podcast from our listeners on Instagram. If you ever have any concerns or comments or questions, please drop us a line. I love answering the comments and private messages and stuff like that. So listen to us on all podcast platforms plus YouTube. We actually surpassed 100 followers. Hold on, looking for a drop to celebrate. 101 followers. I actually wanted the kids to cheer. 100 followers, baby. If you do us a favor, please. We hit a snag last year where we lost all of our followers through no fault of our own. There was just some crooked people in this world. I try not to be bitter, but god damn it. Every once in a while, just get. Anyways, we're not gonna start with that. So please, YouTube.com/TurinGiantsOfficial. Please join us. We will try to do as much stuff as we can for you guys. All right, where do we start? Zach, you always kick us off with formation talk, and of course, the boys. Please feel free to join in. Juventus Inter, much anticipated game. What did you think about the starting lineups for Juve?
I think there were 2, notable changes in the lineup with the return of Captain McKennie. I think the last time he captained our side was in the Champions League, and that game didn't go so well. But we got return of Captain McKennie with the 2 changes. Much better drop than the last one. But the 2 changes, well, maybe not 2 changes, but the 2 parts I want to focus in are the exclusion of Locatelli. I think with his
what's up with that
long passing and with his defensive contributions, I kind of expected to see him in the starting 11, especially since Coop, who was sat last game, hasn't really been impressing the last month and a half. And then having Savona at left back,
Oof.
knowing that how dynamic Dumfries is down that right wing, that just right off the bat flagged as a mismatch. Now, the former scenario, the Locatelli scenario, ended up not really costing us because of how we played, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the Savona mismatch with Dumfries was one that, for a long period, was brutal to watch.
Sure was. Boys, what'd you think? Patrick, I know Zach mentioned the captaincy of McKennie. Don't make me play the drop again, but you had some interesting stats ready to go, right?
Not really stats. It's crazy that McKennie is captaining Juventus. You look at all these different captains over the years, Italian from Chiellini, Buffon. It just goes back to back to back. And then you have Danilo, who's maybe a worthy choice of captain, and then McKennie kind of makes you scratch your head. But to Zach's point, this result was much better than the last one. It's just crazy being a U.S. men's national team follower, right? Watching McKennie rise from when he was 20 years old to where he is now captaining Juve. It kind of warms my heart that he's such an impact player. When let's face it, the club over the last few years has kind of wanted him out, and he just keeps proving everybody wrong. So proud to be an American for my boy Wes McKennie.
Absolutely. Damiano, your thoughts before the game?
I thought we were going to I thought we were going to draw. I wanted a win, of course, but it seemed like we were heading, I don't know. I just got the vibe we were going for a draw, but we pulled it out. I mean, we played pretty good. I feel, McKennie's super solid utility guy, plays any position, and he plays the whole game too. And I mean, must be gassed. He must be gassed. I mean, like it's great seeing him do his thing, and yeah, definitely gives us an advantage.
Since we're talking about McKennie here, let me see if you guys agree with this. FOTMob is giving him 6.7, and he's in the orange circle, which is not a good sign. There's a bunch of greens, and then McKennie gets a below 7 grade. What do you think, Zach?
I mean, like his consistent.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Sorry, man. Oh, you're good. Yeah, I just think his consistency. I mean, like over the span of the season, I mean, he plays wherever we need him, and 6.7 for yesterday. And it's his overall consistency, I guess, for our squad has been huge.
Well, let me ask you guys. He kind of played the number 10, right, yesterday-ish. Name prominent number 10s from Juventus's history. Right?
I don't know any.
Whatever names popped into your head, the question is, right, is McKennie anywhere near any of them in skill and talent? And I think most people say no. And then when you see a player playing the number 10, you expect a certain profile of player. Certainly when you think of Juventus. McKennie notably is not that player. And what's really interesting is that Mota set up the team, not in a formation standpoint, but with his tactics, to benefit what McKennie brought to the team, which is sort of the anti-number 10, an advanced ball winner, where he's going to win second balls. We played very direct. He's going to win second balls. He's going to pressure their midfield. By the way, that second half was all down to our midfield, pressuring theirs, forcing them to play direct, which was clearly uncomfortable for them. That starts with him. So Mota built our tactics in part around McKennie's skill set and what he brought to the table. So when you see a guy at 6.7 playing the 10, and in the back of your mind you have all the number 10s from Juventus's past, you might think, this maybe doesn't work. But the coach put our team with McKennie in a position to be successful and get the result we did yesterday. And I think that's a credit to both McKennie for going on executing the game plan, but also the coach for setting us up with a clear picture of how we were going to disrupt Inter, who is ahead of us in the table.
It must be fair. Us as a group, we talked that we would consider McKennie to play left back, just knowing that Dumfries was going to go crazy on the right. And, the fact that he didn't and still made an impact, I don't care about the 6.7. There was he's in the right spot to help the team. And I don't know that that's counted on FOTMob. So
That's kind of was implicit in my point. And interestingly enough, we didn't need him at left back because the adjustment made at halftime. And I don't know if you guys noticed this. It didn't really hit me till after the fact. Is Dumfries barely touched the ball in the second half, and it's not because he was man marked. It's not like Savona all of a sudden like put on his big boy pants and was man marking the hell out of Dumfries. We changed how we were playing to make sure that he wasn't given so many free opportunities on the ball. We made it very uncomfortable for Inter that second half. And it all came down to our midfield, making it impossible for the Çalhanoğlu, Mkhitaryan, Barella midfield to progress as easy as they did in the first half. And part of that is McKennie being that advanced, physical, hardworking presence that made it really uncomfortable for their midfield.
As the kids say nowadays, Savona was getting cooked. It was rough to see. It was actually really surprising not to see any subs after the first half. And if I'm not mistaken, that this is like me just being wrong all the time. Did Inter not make any changes?
They made a ton of changes. So yeah. So what happened was this.
Something.
This is fascinating to me because I love the tactical side. So I expected a change at half because Savona was getting destroyed, but but the problem was, and Mota was, this is why Mota's got his job and I have mine. But the problem wasn't Savona. The problem was our midfield. In the first half was way too loose, and they gave the ball up easily, which allowed Inter in transition to have a lot of space and distribute right to Dumfries. When Thuram, about 10 minutes into the second half, lost the ball in the midfield, just like in the first half, the first thing Inter did was give it to Dumfries. But that was really the only mistake that second half. We executed much better, which took the pressure off Savona. So the coach correctly said it wasn't a personnel issue. It was a tactical and execution issue. Now, our first change was 59 minutes where Cambiasso came in for Savona. And I thought it was a brilliant sub. I thought Mota actually outcoached Inzaghi in this game. How does Inzaghi respond 2 minutes later? He subs out the entire left wing of Inter. He did their left center back, their left wing back, and their left striker. And then they tried to play down the left, which caused a little bit disruption for a couple minutes, but was overall ineffective over the course of the remainder of that half. And I just think that the change, one player, Cambiasso for Savona, made such an enormous change on our side.
Absolutely.
When all the changes that Inter made did not materially change or their prospects or yield any notable chances or results in that second half.
So we made 3 changes: Cambiasso, Locatelli, Yildiz, and then of course I don't know what. I guess at 60th minute I looked at the substitute tick clicker or whatever, and there was none. So Augusto came out, Zalewski, Thuram, Zielinski, and Correa. I honestly thought their squad was unlucky. Let's talk about the misses. Let's talk about the Martinez disaster, right? Lautaro was not himself yesterday, and what a game not to be yourself, right? I was really happy to see those misses and him getting upset at the end of the game. I know even Maurizio from around Juventus pinpointed, why are they always like this when they lose? And it was a satisfying game. Really, really nice, important win, especially with all the points dropped, right? All the competitors dropped their points on Saturday. This was a must win.
It was like the commentator's curse. They just kept raving how since the turn of the calendar year, Lautaro has just been going nuts. And truth be told, he has, and his form is on fire for 2 months almost. And he just looked like Dusan Vlahovic out there. I'll mute my mic after that one.
There's no reason to mute your mic. I was just about to ask, all year have we been unlucky or have we just sucked? From a finishing standpoint, I don't like chalking it up to unluckiness because you make your money as a striker in those moments. And we've talked at nauseum about how Dusan has, the third most missed chances in Serie A, and from an eye test, he trips on the ball or this, that, or the other. It's in the big moments where you define yourself, and Lautaro did not execute properly. That's not unlucky. That is not coming in with the right mindset and the right skill to do the job on the given day. And on the flip side, Colomwani, and to the contribution he made, Chico did. which is why we had the one goal and they didn't convert theirs. That's not unluckiness. It's about rising to the occasion. They didn't, and we did.
How hilarious was it when one of the shots Lautaro shot actually went the opposite way? That's how bad he was last year. That's how bad he was yesterday. And well, let's take a look at what our coach said after the game. I apologize, a lot of windows to manage here. So Juventus coach Thiago Motta praised his players for their dedication and hard work after Sunday's 1-0 derby to Italia. Francisco Conceição struck the goal. So let's see what he says. I don't do my work to please or displease anyone. I do it for myself because I know we're on the right path. Don't know what that means, but I guess it's a slam against the critics. I like to see the team improve, battle, work hard, and play good football to win the game. The players, above all, deserve the support of the fans. They give their all every day for the team and for Juventus. Reflecting on Juve's win over reigning champions Inter, who remained 2 points behind leaders Napoli, Motta said that his team had started too tentatively in the first half. We certainly had a difference in energy in the second half. The first was tough, and we showed them too much respect, allowing them too much time on the ball. So regarding that, I thought, you watch the first half, and people really don't realize that halftime really makes a difference. So I was happy to see a different Juve come on and seal the game. 75th minute is such an important time to score. I think there was a corner that was given away. It was just a silly corner in the 45th minute against us, and I thought this would be the worst time to concede. Thankfully, and it was over something silly too. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was if we concede because of that, I'd be really mad. But thankfully, we didn't. And again, 75th minute, and of course, we have to talk about the goal with Zach. Break down the goal here, but before we do, I prepared it, but here we go.
Grande Colomani! Conceição! Chico, he was about to take it off, and then he said, no!
I think Uncle Beppe is losing it.
Come on, man. Who wasn't losing it at that moment?
Oh, that was so good. And we were watching with the boys at the pub, and it was disgusting outside, and it was warm atmosphere inside. There's nothing like a goal against Inter with all your boys, and it's so funny. Uncle Beppe, of course, you guys know him as GJS Juve. He sent me a screenshot of him watching us playing his drops, which was so fun. I love that guy. So he's, his goal reactions, I live for that shit. But yeah, Zach, how about that goal, man? Yeah, I know the final strike was beautiful. Went between the legs of the defender, and Sommer has had nowhere to go. He didn't know where.
It's not about the final strike.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
It's about Randall.
Colosexy.
Yeah, it's about Randall Colomwani. My God! So Thuram's cutting through the middle of the field, kind of by the halfway point. Passes over to Conceição. And not Conceição, sorry, Cambiasso. And we actually we outnumbered their runners at the far post. And so I'm like, play a good cross, please. Well, he does. Cambiasso plays a dangerous cross to the back post. We outnumber them.
As he does.
Fantastic. He was very good in his substitution performance. Well, the Inter wins the header, but they sky it, okay? It's not a clean win. Mm-hmm. So many times when you see these goofy skied headers kind of falling at the top of the box, there's sort of this weird melee. The defender usually wins it. Well, Colomwani, it's a big dude, right? He bodies
not him.
He bodies his guy. He wins the ball. Now, what's interesting is he's surrounded by all three midfielders for Inter. He's got Barella, he's got Mkhitaryan, he's got who's the last guy's name? It's Çalhanoğlu. And he bodies one. He then pirouettes through the other two. Acerbi comes in. He pokes it out wide to Conceição. And let's just stop for a second.
Acerbi did touch the ball too, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a touch at first, and we saw the replay. Like that was an intentional pass out. I was like, oh man.
Well, it was a poke and with a little deflection. But when you think about him bringing that ball down, when 99,000 times out of 99,001, you see the offending player fail to come down with it. See not only Colomani bring it down and then dribble through the entire midfield of Inter, then poke it with a little nick to Conceição. I mean, the whole team was around Colomani. Conceição had all day in space. Then McKennie, who just so happens to be standing nearby, ends up throwing an inadvertent pick to the defender who could have dove and blocked the shot. Conceição kicks it through the legs, aside the keeper, and puts it in. We've talked a lot of times about how to score a goal in soccer, since you don't score up that often, it requires moments of brilliance. We've talked about it several times with Conceição, of him dribbling and beating people one-on-one. Well, yesterday it was Colomani with that play at the top of the box to collect it, create his own space with his dribbling ability, and then dish it out to the open man.
Grande Colomani! Conceição! Chico, he was about to take it off, and then he said, no!
And the cherry on top, if you watch the celebration,
hey man, respect the drop, buddy. Respect the drop. Let it end.
I hate the drop. Don't respect the drop.
I had to bring it up. He pulls on the badge. He's been here 8 months.
Right.
And he pulls on the badge.
That's right.
He's not a veteran of the team. He's technically a loanee guy, right? So after 8 months on the team, he pulls on the badge. He's 22 years old or 21 years old, whatever he is. That just fires you up. In the Inter derby, man, that was incredible.
Did you see Coop's reaction to the goal? So Coop,
did he drop on a knee? I know one of them dropped.
He dropped on his knees, pumping his fists into the ground, and then he starts punching the ground. I mean, you could see, in that moment for Coop Miners, I mean, he has not had the start at Juventus that we all hoped he wanted. I'm sure that he wanted, but you could see what this team and what this moment meant to all of the players, himself included. These are a passionate group of guys who has just been belaboring under the weight of these draws. And you saw for that moment, at least I did, some of that pressure release. And you could finally see that joy come out. And let's be honest, after that goal, you did not see us go into that defensive shell that we've seen. You did not see us have those same mistakes that we have been giving other teams so they can draw late. We were still attacking. Coop Miners a few minutes later had that attempt that Dumfries had to clear off the line. After the goal, Inter did not really have one clear-cut opportunity that I can think of for the rest of the game. That shows the passion, and that shows, I think, a level of maturity that we have not seen in games where we've been ahead for the vast majority, if not the entire season.
So here's a question. Thank you, Zach. Here's a question from our newest listener, Luca Militello. I want to give you a personal shout out. He reached out on Instagram with a question, and then he said that I'm excited to listen. Just started following you guys and love the content. We appreciate you guys. Let me take a second to thank our listeners. Without you guys, we're obviously nothing. What are we gonna do without you guys? So thank you, Luca. His question is, whoever wants to take this one on, should Thuram be starting over Locatelli? I know it was speaking of formations and starting lineup quirks, this was one of them, right? This was Thuram starting over Locatelli. Who wants to take this one on for our new friend Luca?
Well, I'll start. I think that, and we talked a little bit about this before the show. I know we got some varying opinions, so I'll just kind of kick it off and then leave it to y'all. But I think you see our midfielders all offer a little something different. Thuram offers a different skill set than Locatelli. Coop Miners, when he plays in a deeper role, which I've liked, by the way, has shown a different characteristic to Thuram and Locatelli. Douglas Luiz, when he's played well for the few outings where he had, has shown a distinctly different dynamic. And I think with Locatelli and with Thuram and with Coop Miners, if you throw him there, I would call it against based on the opposition that we're playing. yesterday we saw us play more directly, focusing on winning the second ball, having guys like Thuram who are so fast and physical, having guys like McKennie who are so fast and physical, helping to win second balls or being the primary target of those long balls is going to be essential. Locatelli's not that player. Right. And so I think having the rotation of guys that we had yesterday to be that physical presence to win those second balls was the right tactical call. In different games, I think Locatelli would be preferable when we're on more of a pass possession game or requiring deep line distribution.
Yeah, and I think it goes also too with the team, like what team is out on the field. I'm a big advocate for them both playing together, not just one or the other, but you like to Zach's point, we do see a lot of like fluidity or like with the Colt Miners, Douglas Luiz, they all bring a different element that depending on where certain guys are playing in other positions, it could also they help out and kind of make the team better. You know what I mean?
Damiano, what are you sporting today? Those are Kappa sleeves. What is
Yeah,
that?
it's
look at
it's
that.
a Juve old school. Yeah, back in the
1996.
day.
Dude.
It's just
We
my. Oh yeah, it's just
I love it so
the
much.
sweater.
Yeah, there's a lag with Damiano, man. We need to work on your internet. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, I was really surprised. Again, Thuram, my beef with Thuram. He's like a Pogba without the final touch. He does 99% of everything really well, and then just kind of. I was even talking to shout outs to Akbar. He's one of our listeners and a Juventus Chicago member dues paying member. So he was laughing with me every time Thuram would do something weird. It was like, yeah, I was like, you see what I mean? You see, I was just yelling at the screen because he'd do something so beautiful, and then the final touch would just be abysmal. So Locatelli for me all the way. I love Loca.
You just hate Thuram though, man. I gotta defend Thuram every time you talk about him because you just always clown on him.
I mean, there's no reason for me to clown on anyone. I like the guy. I've got nothing personal against him. Happy that we won, but just something's missing. I really hope, Thuram, tell me, Thuram, does he go into Juve starting lineup in like 2016, 17? Does he? Not at all. Like he's just very mediocre.
Nobody at our team does. That's unfair. Like
Right.
All right. I guess.
I
wish
do have
he
to say,
improves his final touch. That's all.
Yeah, I do have to say that he does dribble that ball right to the middle and he hits
beautifully.
it. Like,
I
he
got
does
nothing against that.
And it opens up the game a little bit more, and so I do think he does that really well, and he's a good physical, midfielder.
My biggest problem is the final touch. He's got that Pogba strides, like he 2 steps and he's like in the opposition half. But I just wish he would distribute the ball a little better. That's all.
Patrick, we need Patrick's thoughts on the midfield.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm more of an advocate of having them both together. With Vega, this is interesting because he's a pretty new player, obviously, but he's been doing a lot of the distributing from the back. We saw against PSV how many, those long balls that he was successful completing. And I think Juventus tried to rely on that against Inter. However, the 2 forward approach that Inter had compared to PSV, I think put a ton of pressure, particularly in the first half against the back line. And Vega really didn't have the time or space to play those passes. And we couldn't get out of the defensive half. So actually, I actually would have advocated for Loca coming in just to help be a little bit higher up the field with a playmaker. I'm not sure, but Vega has been proven to, in just a short time, to be a really willing and able passer, kind of spray those Bonucci like, now not on the same level for sure, but I think you get a little bit of a Locatelli style without having to bring, because let's be honest, with Vega in and Gatti and whoever the other, it was against PSV, it was Kelly, but they've been playing in a back 3 and Vega was in the middle spraying the ball around. So typically when in a back 4, they spread the center backs out and Loca comes back to get the ball, and they haven't done that the last 2 games. So perhaps it's the emergence of Vega and the way he can spray the ball out. I actually think Thuram was the right call yesterday because of the physicality. And you could see when he was starting to dribble the ball in the midfield, the inter midfielders they couldn't dispossess him at all. He would just take a touch and
He's a
go right
big boy.
around him. So he's a big boy. He somehow gets his foot in there before they touch it. I don't know how that's possible, but in most games, I advocate for them both. But I can see why, with the addition of Vega and the skill he brings, why maybe Locatelli was used off the bench.
What a beautiful segue. Thank you, Patrick. Question from our frequent contributor, Robin Jonsson. Robin Jonsson. What are your thoughts on Gatti Viega defensive partnership? I get major Bash Brothers vibes from Mighty Ducks.
There are two physical big dudes, and we talked about, after Bremer got injured, we talked about the Kalulu Gatti partnership, and there were definitely some growing pains. It seemed to take several games for them to kind of understand how to play together, and there were some just like boneheaded, maybe miscommunications or mispositioning between the two. But we're not getting any of that with Gatti Vega. These two guys seem to step right in and work really well together, utilizing their height and physicality to disrupt opposing forwards. And when you think about it, if you're going up against guys like Marcus Thuram or Lukaku, Kalulu's 5'11", maybe 6 foot in the morning. When you got 2 6'3" guys that can alternate and beat on these forwards with their physicality and presence, I think it just really bolsters our ability or our flexibility when it comes to playing around the different packages that we're going to see in Serie A.
And I think it's a temporary partnership, right? Because all reports say Bremer is coming back potentially April, May. Did you guys see that he's going to be probably back by the end of the season? Maybe that's a little bit early, but this is a temporary thing, and who knows what's going to happen long term with Vega, right? But in a perfect world, right, it seems like he's got the passion for the club and he stays long term. So then what are your guys' thoughts on who's going to drop, right? Is it Gatti or is it Vega? For me, I don't want to be the guy to pick Gatti out, but in this partnership, I think Bremer and Vega long term, if that can work out, or who's with me? We have a small sample size with Vega, but who's with me?
I mean, oh, go ahead, Zach. My bad. Sorry.
No, Damiano, you go.
I feel that Bremer and I mean, it all depends on the game. We don't need to have them all playing together at the same time or whatnot, but we could interchange them, and depending on who our opponent is, it would be great to have them all. You know what I mean? They all kind of like the midfield. They kind of offer something different. But yeah, no, Bremer and Vega would be pretty legit defensively, though. That'd be pretty sweet.
So we were seeing early in the season with Bremer a Savona, Gatti, Bremer, Cambiasso backline. And what Bremer did was he shifted and played kind of left center back when in possession with Cambiasso moving to the midfield. So we could see a Gatti, Vega, Bremer backline theoretically next year if Vega were to stay. If you have to make me pick two, I think Vega, it plays next to Bremer because Bremer's not known for being an exceptional passer. And I think Vega's passing would complement Bremer's defensive prowess.
But Gatti's the one that marauds forward, right? Which one of those two is going to make that wild and crazy push into the box,
Well, I mean, it depends on our right back situation. If it's a Kalulu, we'll just say, without absent any announcement, we'll say Kalulu at right back, Cambiasso at left back. That would work through those guys.
You're going to take Timmy Weah out of right back, man?
Well, we need to talk about that. But, if you say Timmy Weah is right back, it's the same answer, right? You want Timmy Weah and Cambiasso moving forward. You don't want one of our center backs over those two.
How dynamic has he been playing right back? I know it wasn't his favorite position, wing back, when Allegri was coach, but man, he's really taken this position and taken it into his own. Do we agree?
The preseason. Can we rewind to preseason? Preseason, we said, what did we say about this team? It was incomplete. We did not have a right back, and we did not have a backup striker in case. And the question we asked was, right, Farhad, if you remember, all of it is Dusan Vlahovic, his contract, his position on our team, the lack of a backup going to be a liability. And it turns out after some early season success that the answer was kind of yes. Or at least more yes than no.
Not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
Yeah, there you go.
In big trouble. And I don't want to be in big trouble. I prefer it.
But that was what we said right off the bat. We were like, we expect our wingers to be good. We expect our midfield to be stellar. It didn't really pan out exactly how we expected, but whatever. We don't have a right back and we don't have a striker. Well, the answer was Kolomwani and Weah. And since those two have started together, we've won all 4 of those games. So
that's 4 wins in a row, isn't it?
4 wins in a row. And
Let's
it's
go.
the only 4 games that those two have played or at least started together. Kolomwani has showed us what a dynamic striker can do on this team. And Timmy Weah has stepped in at right back, sort of Mota finding the in-house option, right? Just stepping at right back and kind of making his own. And let's be honest, people have said, I haven't, but a lot of people have said that Mota's been too rigid with his tactics, too rigid with how he plays players. Well, you can say what you want about all year, but putting Weah at right back and adapting the way we play in order to accommodate Weah's skill set, just like with McKennie at the 10, has really put our team in a position to win. And out of those 4 wins, 3 of them, less the Como game, I think were really good wins. And so I think we've found the solution. One through the loan option from Juntali, and the other one in-house, Mota, you putting Weah there to fill in the gaps that we saw at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned Timmy Weah. As a fan of the game, I love having these players that when they touch the ball, something magical is going to happen, right? It was Pirlo. It was Pogba. Weah might not bring the magic yet, but Weah and Conceição, I feel like when they get the ball, something fun will happen. And now, Kolomwani has been added to the team. He's another player that kind of gives you the vibes of, something dangerous is going to happen. It's not going to be another back pass. So as a fan of the game, as a fan of the team, it's nice to know that Weah, last few games, he's been amazing with those darting runs, cooking dudes on the right. Love it. I love seeing that. The crosses are great too.
And the biggest piece of his game nobody is talking about is that tackle, right? How
Taremi, oh my
50 yards. He's not a true defender, right? He didn't cheer and do the whole Gatti fist pump after the tackle.
Hard.
Oh my gosh, man. That's Grinta. That is Grinta. In the second half, chasing a player down, what a tackle.
I got a trivia question for you guys. Or not a trivia question. I got true or false. We'll make it 50-50. Okay. True or false?
We'll let Damiano have
Damiano, true or false?
All right, right on.
Timmy Weah completed more passes against Inter than any of our midfielders.
I mean, I don't know.
It's
go true.
It's usually yes.
Yeah, it's usually yes. Thank you. Yes,
true.
Timmy Weah not only completed more passes than any of our midfielders, but also had better passing accuracy. So you have the tackle against Taremi, and overall his defensive play was very good. You have the marauding runs that Farhad talked about, but then he also really showed some really clean passing work, which you might not think of when you think of him, sprinting down the right wing there. So he's really been a complete player. We talked about it earlier in the season. He's been one of those more clinical players too with opportunities. Him and McKennie have been very clinical with opportunities. He's really stepped up this year to play a well-rounded and effective style. And as Patrick rightly called me out on, maybe right back could very well be his future if he plays like this on a consistent basis. Because, geez.
All right. This has been Timmy Weah talk. I think we've touched on everyone, right? I don't want to leave a player that we didn't discuss. We'll maybe touch on that by the end of the podcast. I wanted to switch gears here a little bit. Another frequent contributor, Chris. So it's a kind of a lengthy post. I can tell it's not a post. It's a Instagram DM. I want to talk about finances a little bit, and hold on,
you're really switching gears on us.
Yeah, well, we'll go back to the game. I just don't want. I want to touch on a lot of things here. So, should I read I know the boys. I read the whole thing. Should I? Let's just for full context. Let's read the whole DM. So, Chris, next time, shorter question, brother. I love you and all, but come on. So that's what I want you guys to discuss on the podcast. Someone in finance to explain why we'll sell a homegrown player for pure profits, in quotes. The way I see it, you stay with me, boys and girls. Let's hear Chris out. You sell Mbangula for 15 mil and you get 15 mil, sure. But if you have a guy like Coop Miners who's underperforming and sits on the bench for 60 mil, which option is better? Sell the rising star for 15 mil and you get 15 mil to spend on the market to reinforce your team. You lose their potential growth value like a stock. B, well, that was option A. Option B, sell Coop Miners at a loss for 40 mil. Yes, you lose 20 million on the accounts from the original 60 million, but you also get 40 million to spend on the market, 25 million more than in option A, and you lose dead weight on the bench. Because the trend now is, as we can expect, he's messing up the words here. Because the trend now is we can expect to lose Mbangula and Yildiz next because they are quote unquote pure profit if sold. I promised Chris to touch on this one. We talked about it a little bit on the pre-podcast meeting. Yes, believe it or not, we do have those. Who wants to take this one on? Quick financial talk, and then I have a small update as far as an article on our finances as well. So we'll do a 5-minute finance break here.
Okay, assuming that or ignoring the fact that Coop Miners played pretty well and is like our second or third highest minute getter on our team, so he's not riding the bench. So ignoring that and assuming the player would even want to leave after 6 months or a year, which is almost assuredly not the case. The way it would work was that, one, Juventus will never take a $20 million loss on a player for their books. What it would happen is like this, and this is why you do see the pure profit sales, is when you sell someone for 15 million, that's a homegrown player, as the question asker said, you get you book the full 15 million as profit. When you buy Coop Miners for 60 million, you divide the value by the number of years of the contract. So 60 divided by 5 is 12, right? To amortize 12 million per year for the transfer value plus his annual salary. So that's how you can turn a 15 million player into a $60 million player. You're sacrificing future growth potential to get a better player now, which is what we did with Coop Miners and Douglas Luiz. I think with this team, I would take option A simply because we've talked about it all season. A young team makes young team mistakes, and being and over-investing in youth would only exacerbate that problem. You bring in, and again, you're standing in August. You don't know how things are going to play out, right? You see Coop Miners, you see Douglas Luiz and their body of work. You expect them to play like that. Juventus, they haven't, but that's what you expect. You bring established good players in to balance out the youth and inexperience of our team, and I think that made a lot of sense at the time. We can look at how Huijsen's playing versus how Douglas Luiz has panned out, and it can give you stress and anxiety. But we have the benefit of hindsight. So I think in these situations, the organization is always going to choose A because of how the money shakes out and the expectations of Juventus. I mean, you can say boo all you want. We're a publicly traded company. We have to balance the books. They cannot take a loss on a player, which is why you'll never see them sell Coop Miners for 20 million after next year, because they would have to take a book loss. They're not going to do it. We sold Delict for less than we bought him, but it was a book profit because of how amortization works. Right? It's accounting funny money, because next year, and Patrick kind of said this in our early meeting, so I'll give him credit, right? Is the 15 million that you can utilize this year for to get Coop miners. Well, we someone's going to have to fill that in next year, right? That's just magic. It doesn't go away. But because of the situation of our team, they're always going to take option A. Now, I don't think they're going to sell Yildiz, but Mbangula does seem to be a likely candidate for maybe that next player next year.
Sammy Bangula! Sammy Bangula!
Please don't
One other
sell
thing
him.
I'll add to that, is there is potential, but potential is potential, means there's no guarantee of future success for this player. I want to bring up a name, Luca Pellegrini. Does anybody remember him? There is a lot of fans clamoring about why the club would sell Luca Pellegrini, and how many people have thought about Luca Pellegrini in the last 6 months because of the other moves the club made.
I don't think Luca Pellegrini thought about Luca Pellegrini in like 6 months.
But you're right. There was a ton of fans, and the social media probably exacerbates the number of fans. But people saying you can't sell this guy. He's young. He's got potential and all that. But what has he done? Has he done anything? So to Zach's point, like, what if Mbangula never actually? You could argue the same with Sule. Now I think he's going to have a decent future. The same argument could be made is you can't really bank on the future when you're a club like Juventus, who, let's face it, they are trying to win now as much as possible, right? They're trying to balance the books. And I know Farhad, we're going to get to this article, but they're trying to balance the books and win now and try to find the right line to follow for that. So maybe that's a good segue, Farhad, into your article about finances.
Yeah, sure. Let's bring this up. So, like I said, many windows here, but let's see. So the small article is about the Exor organization, the holding company that owns Juventus, has laid out a strict financial roadmap for the Italian football giant. The new business plan for 2024/2027 aims to balance sporting competitiveness with financial stability, marking its significant shift in the club's approach to management and spending. So this is kind of nerdy Juve stuff, but it's also important to know. Gazzetta dello Sport reports how, after accumulating nearly 900 million in losses over the last 5 years and requesting an equal amount from the shareholders, Exor has made it clear that no further capital increases will be forthcoming. The decision puts pressure on Juventus to dramatically improve its financial performance. The club must limit its deficit to no more than 32 million by June 30th, 2025, to avoid eroding more than 1/3 of its share capital. To achieve these financial goals while maintaining competitiveness, Juventus has set several sporting objectives. Like, check this out, guys. So there's 3 objectives that need to be met. Reaching the Champions League round of 16 this season, which has already generated 63 million euro in revenue. That's huge. Advancing to the Coppa Italia semifinals. And third, progressing to the round of 16 in the FIFA Club World Cup, potentially increasing earnings from 17-18 to 25 to 30 mil. The club is also seeking a main sponsor, hoping to secure a deal before the end of the current season to boost commercial revenue. One last thing I'll say is, looking ahead, the club has reportedly planned the sale of Cambiaso to Manchester City by early June. There are also discussions about potentially parting ways with Vlahovic, which could free up about 40 million in costs. And I know we're missing Freddie now, who could explain more of what he hears on the streets of Turin as far as players leaving, players arriving. He's our little informant as far as transfers go. But yeah, I mean, Vlahovic is as good as gone. It's so insane to me that he lost his starting spot. Isn't it crazy? And I even, one of the comments that I put online, I think it was on CBS, the goal, I commented that Vlahovic ain't doing all that. We're not getting that much potential, that much usefulness out of Vlahovic, and just this little sequence that led to the goal. Am I wrong? He's not doing all that, right? So
Not at all.
If you guys want to, if you guys want to talk about the financials a little more, or we can leave it at that. I laid out the three things that.
The one thing I'll add is you see cycles in spending and like Allegri, his first or Allegri round 2. His first year, they spent heavily. In fact, our net transfer, they spent something like, and this is off the top of my head, so don't exactly quote me, but they spent something like 130, 140 million. This summer, we spent something like 170. The net transfer deficits were negative. I think they were even. I think they were negative 77 million euro in both Mota's first season and Allegri's first season. But after that first season, we saw spending significantly. Well, not significantly. We still spent over 100 million euro in the following ones, but less. Less, and we sold better in those following few years with Allegri. So I think we can expect to see the same. And I that shouldn't concern folks. We talked about it. When you have rebuilt midfield, you have those young wingers that we have. You have the return of Bremer with Kalulu and them. And then you have 80 million from Cambiaso that you can reinvest in probably 2, maybe 3 players. We'll have the money, and we have a fairly complete squad to round it out to meet what I believe the goal of next year should be, should be to fight for the Scudetto.
It'd be such a shame to lose Cambiaso. I feel like there's transfers that need to happen, and there's transfers that are not even worth the money. I know it may be worth the money, but losing Cambiaso will be such a huge loss, such a talent, especially to Manchester City. I think that's what bugs me the most about it. These Italians don't do well in England. Maybe not all. It's a generalization. Don't come at me, but I just feel like he'll be lost there. Our boy.
Juventus and granted, it wasn't Giuntoli, but it's been a string of our sporting directors and leadership over the years has done really well turning big sales into key players on our team. When we sold Zidane, when we sold Pogba, when we sold De Ligt, we turned around and we got, at least in the former scenarios, multiple players that were long-term key players in our Scudetto runs. When we turned around, we sold, and we bought De Ligt for 80, sold him for 60, and then bought Bremer for, and I don't remember the number, but it was less than 60.
It was 60. I think it was about 60.
Who I think we all agree is, speaking of current talent versus potential, better than De Ligt. Juventus has done a good job with that. So I think as much as I don't want to see Cambiaso go, those types of big sales are always, in my mind, evaluated based on who we get in return. Management turns around and gets 3 Luca Pellegrinis, then I think we would say that, wow, that's really sucked. If they turn around and get 3 Cambiasos, then we're going to say that, what, just like when Pogba left, right? We love him, right? He was a great player, but adios, thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you. Let's switch gears here. So this has been Financial Talk with the boys. Thank you guys so much.
That was dry as shit, though, man. Why we don't? You threw that right in the middle of game talk, Farhad. Now the wind's out of my sails. Yeah.
I mean, we
what,
got.
Do you want me to open up Excel now? What's going on?
Hey, listen, man. A lot of Juve fans are big nerds of Juve, and I feel like we should dedicate a second to them. This needs to be needs to be touched on. So if you want to talk about heroes of the moment, here are a couple of quotes from Kolo Muani. So he embraced the challenge with Juve. He says he's happy to be here. Future doesn't worry me. So let's see what he says about Juventus. Everything's going well. This was before the Inter game, this interview. Everything's going well. I'm extremely happy to be here. I've been welcomed very warmly. I've spoken with the coach and the captains, and I get along with all my new teammates. The forward noted the difference in training intensity compared to his previous experiences in France, adding, "We work very hard here, and it's a change from France. The football is more tactical and more demanding here. I had an excellent debut. My teammates helped me a lot, giving me the right balls, and I managed to score. I'm happy here, and I hope this moment continues." And of course, after this, he gives a crucial assist to Chico Conceição. When rumors about Juventus started circulating, he began. He was looking ahead to the upcoming clash against Inter. Very timely. I'm sorry. Kolo Muani recognizes the magnitude of the fixture. It's a big challenge, a derby. We need to prepare ourselves as best we can, and we're doing that. And he proved he proved the haters wrong. I don't know if he has any haters. Everyone has been pretty positive about him. I love the guy, the work rate, and the danger in front of the goal is
we talk about
fantastic.
how much Vlahovic cost, how much he was worth, right? In a former day and age, Kolomwani was a $90 million buy, right? So there's a player there, guys. There's a real player there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes they just need a reset, Damiano.
And I mean, that could be like the difference too. I mean, let's say we had at the beginning of the season, things could be, those draws could 1 goal difference, win. But at least he's doing his thing now. That's what's up.
Absolutely. Zach, do you have I closed the window. Do you have the current standings in front of you?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the table, see what changed especially after Napoli and Atalanta dropped points. And of course, we went ahead and won our game.
Yeah,
what are we looking at now?
Yeah, I actually want to talk a little bit about this, more so about the teams that are behind us than the teams that are ahead of us. But here we go. We got Napoli first at 56 points, Inter at 54, 2 behind, Atalanta at 51, and Juventus at 46. So we're 10 points behind Napoli, 8 points behind Inter, and 5 points behind Atalanta. We are tied with Lazio, who we are ahead on goal differential and currently head-to-head, who are in 5th, also on 46. We are 4 points ahead of Fiorentina at 42 points. And both Bologna and Milan in 7th and 8th have a game in hand, and they're at 41. So they're playing each other, I think, in that. So whoever wins, assuming there's a winner, they could go up to 44, which would be 2 points behind us.
Best league in the world. I'm sorry. The most fun league to watch. Position changes every match day. So great. This weekend has been a great advertisement for Italian football, and I'm happy to see it.
Well, and I kind of want to talk about what the picture is looking forward, right? So we finally got into 4th. We've been talking about it all year, right? All these ties. Well, we're in striking distance. Our performances aren't what they are, but we're still in striking distance. Well, now we're in 4th. So what does the future hold? And so I compared our schedule down the road against Lazio, Fiorentina, and Milan's 5, 6, and 7, and we're of course 4th. Of those teams, Lazio, Fiorentina, and Milan all play 4 teams in the top 7. We only play 3. Lazio, Fiorentina, and Milan all play 3 teams who are above them on the table. We only play 1. And all 4 of the teams are in multiple competitions. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, now that we're 4th, albeit only on whatever the first tiebreaker is, head-to-head or goal differential, now that we're ahead and in 4th, looking at what's ahead, we have no excuse not to finish top 4. Full stop.
We're going for it, baby. Top 4. Juve 2025. We are happy to be in the top 4. But thank you, Zach, for that breakdown. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the upcoming games, and we talked about how this January/February, we've been doing pretty well so far. Obviously we have important games coming up, but a difficult month ahead of us, or I don't know, a couple months. January, let's say January, February, difficult months, but the reinforcements for the defense and the team kind of clicking at the right time, really important. It's going to be a good season. It's going to be fun to watch.
How much, we've talked about a lot of players, but we spent a lot of time this season talking about Mota. All right, now we're in February, 4 wins on the bounce, statement win against Inter. Now what do we say about Mota?
Somebody asked me to mention his celebration, which was it was good to see. You could see that he was really relieved. Like you feel for him. He's had a couple of rough months in 2024, but seeing him celebrate like a player was awesome. Zach, you and I, we're on the same page. We our bitter friend from Belgium, our guy Freddie. He was not happy with him, but we said trust the process. I don't know what the boys feel about him. Let's ask Patrick what he feels about Mota of February 7th, as of February 17th, 2025. Your thoughts on our coach?
Yeah, I watch a lot of sports besides just football here, and I'm of the belief that you can't make your decision in half a season, let alone even just one full season. So I'm kind of with Zach on you got to give him like a full season and a half, get his guys, establish himself. Juventus had to work their way out of the 1 year of Sarri, the 1 year of Pirlo, right? And those were mistakes. You could argue that maybe those weren't the right choices at the time, but the whole point is this: you got to give your coach a chance to make his impression, his identity. Players come in and out so quickly and so fluidly. You got to give him a chance. So I think the results the rest of the way. Now, if Juventus fall to like 6th or 7th, that's too drastic. But if they hang around top 4, Champions League, relative success, there's no question. You got to keep rolling and see if it gets better, and then evaluate based on that. But I'm thinking it's too early for any hashtag Mota outs. You gotta
for
go.
Some of our fans, believe me.
There's a lot of that out there. That was a lot of that out there.
Online,
that's all I gotta say.
Maybe not after this game, but they pop in and out, and Mota out is a. We really never really touched on that, but a lot of Juve fans are not fans, especially like Italian fans from Italy, from Turin. They don't want former Inter player, Inter legend, or whatever you want to call him.
Juve wins the league next year, they'll be quiet. I assure you of that.
Yeah, right.
And that's the thing is, I woke up today feeling it was a good day for the trust the process crowd. It's I've been saying it till I'm blue in the face all year, and then 4 wins on the bounce in February. But he's got to keep it up, right? It's like your season isn't defined in these 4 games like it wasn't defined with all the draws before. Your season is defined at the table at the end. I stand by what I said. All the trust the process stuff till now, yes, it feels good now, but you're in 4th with a what I'll say, easier schedule down the road than the folks fighting you for it. You have no excuse at this point where we are in this season with how the team is playing right now, not to finish top 4. That's Mota. That's all the players. That's just it.
Yeah. Let's touch on the upcoming games here. PSV Eindhoven, we are visiting Holland on Wednesday, and then Sunday the 23rd away at Cagliari. Wednesday the 26th, man, packed schedule. There's like game every 3 days. We're going to Empoli. So here, that's Coppa Italia. So, and then we're going to LS Verona. Not going, we're at home. So potential 6 points in Serie A there. And March 9th, jumping way ahead, Juventus are hosting Atalanta. Again, at home. The atmosphere has been pretty good. Even Romeo Agresti, you could see on his Instagram, he was happy with the support of the fans in the previous game, and yesterday's support was really good. So hopefully we're coming back to finally winning at home again and feeling like we can take on anyone. And sure, we're going to need that support against Atalanta, but that game is not for a while. Your guys' thoughts on the Eindhoven game, that tricky fixture, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah,
tricky fixture. Yes.
Oh, my bad. It's it's a must win. I mean, I'd rather ride this wave and keep this momentum going. And then we were talking about if Mota could finish in the top, he has to finish in the top 4, but we still got Champions League too. You know what I mean? So we might even get Inter for all we know if we continue to if we make it past PSV, which hopefully knock on wood, we should. I hope we will, but we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, things are looking good for Mota right now. But I mean, let's I think keep this momentum going, keep these wins coming.
4 games in a row is certainly the best stretch of his career at Juve.
Yeah, the PSV, I think keeping the run alive is huge. PSV though is going to come in not only wanting revenge after losing, but they just played at home in the weekend, putting in 34 shots a 19 on target against Utrecht.
Shooting practice.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up only drawing the game. Utrecht scored 2 of their 3 shots on goal, and they
Oh my God.
only scored. It took a 92nd-minute equalizer, but this is when they play at home, they just have a different level of class. I think they're an obviously extremely talented team. I think we have to go in riding the wave of how we've been playing with this high press that really disrupted them to throw them off their game. Because if we sit back too much, they're a team that will make you pay. And we've been haunted by poor Champions League performances against teams theoretically
that we should beat.
In the knockout round. But I'm sick and tired of seeing us lose to teams from the Eredivisie or the Portuguese league in the knockout round. The team needs to not only ride this momentum, but needs to put all of those demons to bed so that we can go into, and this might sound very strange, but into a tricky Cagliari game. When they play in the Sardinia arena, they are really scrappy and hard to beat. And so, you got to keep the momentum going because there's a knock-on effect. There's a knock-on effect in all games, and I think it's important to keep that momentum because why do you beat Inter 1-0 at home to then choke it away because you lost momentum against PSV or even worse, go to Cagliari, who's in 16th place, and you draw or lose in Sardinia.
14th place. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I feel like going back to the Champions League tie, I feel like we will have to face some adversity because those teams are tricky. We may go down first, like some silly first 5 minutes goal against us. And that's when, not that I'm predicting it, but I'm just saying, even with Perisic goal, it was out of nowhere, and we had to step up, come back. So hopefully the team is prepared enough to meet those obstacles. Which surely that team at home wanting to prove themselves, I think they're going to give us a lot of problems. This will not be an easy game whatsoever.
Not to spend too much time at this, but you do hear arguments of, well, if you bow out of the Champions League, you have more resources and more focus on the league. And I'm of the complete opposite mindset. Keep the pedal to the metal, keep the momentum going. I want these boys challenged and hungry, no matter how many competitions they're playing in. Why stop? Last year it was 2 competitions. I want more, right? We have the squad depth, we have the team, we have players who are loanees who are coming in and hungry to win. And you saw Vega, right? We talked about Vega a lot earlier, but pre-game, he's like, you're playing against Inter, Juventus know what they have to do. I want that mentality for every single game they play.
You're playing Cagliari away, you know what to do.
Well, at this point,
that's
it's 2025. We have to talk about that, but that's the point. I don't want to bow out of the Champions League to focus on the other competitions that we're in. Every game.
Haven't you heard the article that I just read? We need money. We need the monies.
Exactly right. But not only that, it's a feather in our cap. It's momentum, and I want the taste in our mouth that Juventus is a winner. That's what I want.
Okay. Weird way to put it, but thank you, Patrick. One last thing, boys. Don't think I forgot this drop. We need Borat, the biggest testicles of the game award.
I have a very big testicles.
Who's the man of the match? Let's go around the room. MVP, big testicles of the game against Inter.
I'm going to call one out. Di Gregorio, undersized keeper, getting a lot of flack early on for selling Chesney, right? Di Gregorio stepped up in the big games, man. That was such a big game for him. And obviously, he wasn't the goal scorer. He wasn't a maestro in midfield, but he's been really effective as of late. So I'm going to throw one out for Di Gregorio.
Excellent. Good shout, man. Yeah, a couple of good saves. One of them was, I believe it didn't count, but it was still good to know that he can deflect from very close.
The save on that bicycle kick early on, like
that's right. I so didn't want that to be a goal against us.
That would have sucked. But I mean, it was brilliant adjustment from Term. You got to give him credit. The way it was a deflection, he read it quick. He made a great contact on it, and it was pretty close to goal. Di Gregorio was well positioned and made a good reaction save to it. Credit him. from a player standpoint, for much of the game, it was kind of tit for tat. I think things changed for Juventus when Cambiaso came in. And so when I texted y'all yesterday, what I think, taking a different take on man of the match, I was including Cambiaso based on how the complexion of the game changed with his addition. But I'm going to slightly amend my man of the match comment from yesterday and say, I think I'm going to give it to Mota as my man of the match. I think with the way the team came out in the second half and how his subs, unlike Inzaghi's, made a difference in the game. When Mota, who's had a lot of flack this year, especially considering all the draws and what he says in post games and how he stands on the sideline, all that nonsense. Well, when he goes up against Inzaghi, who has been
great coach,
who's been coaching the premier team in Italy, and he outcoaches them, I think that deserves credit. And so my man of the match is Thiago Motta.
This is for you, coach.
He have a very big testicles.
Damiano, who's your...
Well, to touch on Zach's point, Farhad, you gave us a thing that, to bring up. One of my questions I was going to ask actually was regarding Motta's subs and the timing of them compared to Inzaghi's, and he fared up. And I think, like Zach said, I think he definitely outcoached them. I mean, I thought that was a huge Cambiaso coming in, and just the way he, trusting the team in the second half, kind of put the same guys, put Savona back out there. But, it was he outcoached him for sure. But my guy was Colomwani, obviously. I mean, that goal was sweet. I mean, that was
without him.
That was beautiful.
That's not a goal. That goal doesn't happen. And yeah.
And also
he was big testicles.
He was also getting stepped on like by a Cherby during that whole thing too. So I mean, to add a little bit extra there.
Fantastic. Anybody want to hear my MVP? I think Colomani was the MVP as well, because I know Chico scored, but the amount of work that went into that assist, I cannot get over it. There's trickery in the air, and the ball was in the air, and he somehow had the forget the word, but anyways, he managed to get that ball to Chico, who then did his thing. And I love Chico as well. I love him too, but
he have a very big testicles.
Thank you, boys. Should we wrap it up? Anything you guys want to mention before we go?
Just want to say it's a fun time to talk about a win against Inter. This would be a terrible discussion if there was a 1-0 the other way. So I'm really glad it was not.
Hey, you know what? We still have fun even when we lose, and we've had so many. Even a loss is more fun to talk about than a draw, and God forbid we had like 15 of them to talk about this season. So you're absolutely right. This beautiful Sunday night. It's nice to talk about a win, especially seeing the frustrated faces of Inter players and all of the stuff on social media. Fans at the stadium recording Inter players and how upset they are, and Inzaghi ripping his pants and walking around with.
You also got to think Lilian Thuram is happy, right? You got to think that man was pleased last night.
Yeah,
dapper as hell. I tell you.
Oh, looking
My
like
God.
looking like he's about to solve a murder on a train somewhere in the 1920s. Yeah, he looked like straight out of a Art Deco movie or something. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, as a dad, having two kids playing the biggest game in Italy, that's pretty awesome. Boys, Damiano, Patrick, Zach, you guys are, as always, my guys. It's so fun to talk about. Alessandro Belpiero approves. Boys and girls, like I said before, please join us on YouTube, youtube.com/Turin Giants official, also at Turin Giants on Instagram. I'm not really active on Twitter anymore, but sure, you can join. I still post new episodes there. But yeah, thank you for joining, boys and girls. Always check on your friends, always stay hydrated, and always Forza Juve.
finest.
Yeah, siamo finiti in B, gli unici a pagare per calciopoli. Yeah, e qui non ci piove, che nel cuore di scudetti sono 29. Mollo tutto e tutti, solo per seguirti. Bianco nero, bianco nero, bianco nero, bianco nero. Un solo grido, dalla curva si alzerà. Bianco nero, bianco nero, bianco nero, bianco nero. Per 29 volte campioni d'Italia, per niente e nulla al mondo abbandonerò sta squadra. Tra tutte quante di fissa più stile, storia un amore senza una... Tensione grande con le mani, Conceição! Conceição! Chico, he was about to take it off and then he said no! Sì!
Toodaloo, motherfucker. Hey.